Hey everybody, my name is LaPrecious and welcome to my channel. Let's talk with LaPrecious. So today I'm going to be talking about Kamala Harris, whether she's black or Jamaican. So yesterday was the inauguration of Joe Biden. Joe Biden was sworn in as our new president, and Kamala Harris was sworn in as our new vice president. And Trump got out the office. Okay, so we're really happy about that. But the debate that I've been seeing and the topic of discussion that I've been seeing on the internet about Kamala Harris is whether she is black or if she's biracial or if she's Jamaican and Indian. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down race and ethnicity and nationality and really tell you the difference of how blackness is seen within the African diaspora. So, what is Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris is Afro Jamaican and Indian. And the reason why I say Afro Jamaican is because her father is from the country or the island of Jamaica. So a person born in Jamaica or a person who's born to parents that were born from Jamaica or were born in Jamaica, they are considered Jamaican. Just like if someone was born in the United States, they will be considered American. Someone born in Canada or in Mexico, they will be considered Canadian or Mexican. But when you break it down, the reason why I said Afro Jamaican is because a person that is born on the island or country or has descendants from the island of Jamaica, but they are of African descent, they are considered Afro Jamaican. Now, the reason why there is a distinction between Jamaican, Afro Jamaican, Indo Jamaican, Chinese Jamaican, or a mixed Jamaican is because all Jamaicans are not black. So now I'm about to break it down what the culture of the Caribbean islands really is. Now, so in the Caribbean, you have a slew of islands. You have Jamaica, Barbados, Dominica, the Dominican Republic, Haiti. You have Turks and Caicos, and you have, let's see what some other ones, Trinidad and Tobago. Then you have St. Kitts and Nevis, and you have, let's see, the Bahamas, and so on and so forth. So you have a slew of islands. Now, these islands are made up of people from many different cultures. You have people of Spanish descent, African descent, Taino, and Arawak. And Taino is a tribe from the Native American diaspora, mainly in the Latin sector of the Caribbean, like Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and you have Cuba and all those different islands within that region, the ones that are more closer to the Latin side of the Americas. And you also had natives in different islands as well. And so yeah, you have the Arawaks and the Tainos or other native tribes that were in those islands. Now you have the Africans. Now slaves were brought over, and most slaves that were brought over to the Caribbean either came from Nigeria, Benin, or like the Western Africa or the Western African countries, which is where a lot of the religions in the Caribbean originated from, like Santeria, that comes from the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria. Then you have voodoo, you have Haitian voodoo, and then you have Obeah, all of those island or all of those Caribbean spiritual religions of what we call in the spiritual community that I practice because I'm in the Santeria faith. And to be more specific, to talk about where that group of religions is from, we call those ATRs, which are African traditional religions. And so the origins of those African traditional religions that are in present day Jamaica, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, so on and so forth, they come from the African descendants of slaves that came from the Western countries of Africa, like Nigeria and Benin, and so on and so forth. So you have the African descendants that live in the Caribbean. Then after them, you have the Chinese. Then you have the Indians, which are Indians from India. Because if you go to like Jamaica, there are plenty of Chinese people. A lot of world famous Jamaican people have Chinese in them. Like Tyson Beckford, he has some Chinese in him. He's Jamaican, but he has some Chinese in him. On his Jamaican side, Naomi Campbell, she has some Jamaican in her mixed in with some Chinese. You have Khalees, the singer that was married to Nas. Her mother is Chinese Puerto Rican. You do have Chinese people in Puerto Rico. And like moving away from the Chinese, you have Indians. Now, Indians were brought over to the Caribbean as indentured servants. They were not slaves because the difference between slaves and indentured servants is slaves were brought over against their will, made to work, for no pay at all, were beaten and so on and so forth. But indentured servants pretty much came over to the islands, especially in Trinidad and in Jamaica, because you do have Indians in Jamaica, but you have a lot of Indians in Guyana. Even though Guyana is in the South American continent, they consider themselves to be Caribbean. So most Guyanese people, they don't say, "Oh, I'm South American." They say, "I'm Caribbean," because when you look at the Guyanese culture and compare it to like Trinidadian culture, they're almost one and the same. They both have a predominant population of Africans and Indians. A lot of people are mixed with African and Indian. For example, you have people, let's see, who's a famous Guyanese person? Melanie Fiona, who's from Canada. Her people are Guyanese. Her mom is African and her mom is just strictly African, but her dad is Indian and Portuguese. So you see that mix there. Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is African and Indian because her mom is an Afro Trinidadian and her dad is a Indo and Afro Trinidadian. Her dad would be considered a Dougala because in Trinidad they consider people that are half black and half Indian to be Dougalas. And Dougalas, it was now in India, Dougala means bastard. And I think the Gujarati language of India, but when it came over to Trinidad, it's like the terminology of Dougla, it changed. So a person that's mixed with black and Indian is called a Dougla in the Trinidadian culture. So you had indentured servants that came over from India to pretty much pay off a wage. And then once they were done paying off those wages, they went back to India. A lot of them didn't. And I remember reading in a book on Trinidad that the Indians that were there, they stayed so long they ended up losing their languages because when you go to Indian, I mean not Indian, when you go to Caribbean countries that have a large Indian population, the main ones that speak the Indian languages are like the great grandparents or the grandparents, but it's like the kids and the later generations, they don't speak it and they wear Western clothes and they're pretty much like Caribbeanized and they wear like traditional Indian attire for weddings and holidays and things of that nature. Now, they do a lot of mixing with Black people in the Caribbean, especially in Trinidad and Guyana, because I mentioned that their population is mainly Black and Indian. So, of course, those two people are going to mix. And in Trinidad, at one point, they said that the Indian women that were married to Indian men, they started becoming so attracted to the Black men or the African men that was there. They had a long history of Indian wives being murdered by their Indian husbands because they were sleeping and shacking up with the Black man that was there. And that's one of the reasons why you have so many dougalas or people that are mixed with Indian and Black, just like in the United States with African Americans. So many of us are mixed with European and Native and Asian as well because of slavery. So they have a similar mix up of races down there like we do here. So, moving along from that, that's why you have the different terminologies or the different identities within the Caribbean because of the history. Now, the thing is with Caribbeans, when it comes to being Jamaican, Trinidadian, Puerto Rican, or Cuban, it is interchangeable because a person that is born in those islands is considered Puerto Rican, Trinidadian, Jamaican already because they're simply from the island. Now, racial wise, yes, they do consider their race or ethnicity to be Jamaican, mainly because due to the way the African culture is in Jamaica and how a person is raised and the languages that they speak and the food that they cook. Since it comes from the African descendants in Jamaica, that's why a Black person that's from Jamaica will say, I'm not Black, or maybe I'm not African American because I'm Jamaican. Afro Jamaicans or Black Jamaicans have a different culture than Black Americans do, but at the same time, they're still Black because they're of African descent or Black descent. So Jamaicans can be interchangeable, or any Caribbean person can be interchangeable with the identities because you have a person that's born in Jamaica born in Cuba or whatever, and they're Cuban, Jamaican, or whatever because they were born there. Then it's interchangeable with the blackness because their ancestors or descendants are of black or African descent, so they would be considered Afro Caribbean or Afro Jamaican, Afro Cuban, Afro so and so, or they would be considered black because they technically are black because their descendants or their ancestors came from black nations in Africa. So that's what makes them black. So they have like three identities. They're Caribbean, they're black, and their national identity as well. That all three of these identities have their own cultures within them. To us, it may be seen as confusing because with African Americans, we black. Yeah, we were slaves and stuff like that a long time ago, but living here and forming our own culture with the food, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, and all of that, which is a mix within itself because macaroni and cheese came from Europe, fried chicken came from Europe, cornbread came from the Native Americans, greens, beans, and all of that stuff. It came from the Africans. So our food is mixed up here just like it's mixed down there. But with us, we speak English, we listen to hip hop, R&B music. Our struggles or our pain is sung in blues, jazz, all that kind of stuff. And that's how we formed our identity. Now, in the Caribbean, they speak Spanish, Pidgin English, or what we call patois, or, so on and so forth. And they form their own culture and language and identity based on their upbringings of from slavery and interminglings with the different cultures and whatnot in the Caribbean. So that was a lot, but I felt like I had to break it down to really get people to get an understanding of identity, nationality, culture, and race, especially from a Caribbean perspective. Because with African Americans, if you got black skin, black features, nappy hair, and all that, you black. But to your black, like black folks here in the United States, but in other countries and cultures, they don't see it like that. So, moving along from that. Now, Kamala Harris's mama was Indian because her mama passed away a couple years ago, but her mother was Indian from India. So, technically, she is mixed or biracial because her mom was Asian Indian and her dad was a black Jamaican. So, since her parents were from two different cultures, two different ethnicities, came together and had her, she's mixed. But you have to look at this at Kamala Harris from an American perspective in the African American community. And I'm not trying to make other people think of her in the way that I think of her because we're all entitled to our own opinions and whatnot. But when you look at Kamala Harris from an African American perspective, we see her, a lot of us see her as black. Because now, my thing is that you can't really say that Kamala Harris is not black when Barack Obama is in the same boat that she's in. Because we all know that due to the one drop rule of slavery, that when the whites used to mix in with the black women and all that kind of stuff, they said if you had one drop of black blood in you, then you couldn't be white or whatever. And they used that so we couldn't identify or be on the same level or same frequency as white people, no matter how much they loved eating our food, loved us taking care of their babies and wiping their running noses and screwing us on the regular when they was done with their wives and stuff in house at night and getting us pregnant and having babies and all that kind of stuff, they still saw us as less than. So they used that against us to keep us as separate. And unfortunately, in the black community, we still hold on to this because we feel like if you look black, talk black, got kinky hair, big nose, dark skin, big lips, or whatever, or you have some type of similarity to it, or black swag, then you are black. When you look at Kamala Harris from an African American perspective, she's black because when it comes to Barack Obama, he's in the same boat as Kamala Harris. His mama was white, and his dad was a black Kenyan from Kenya. So Barack Obama came from two different races. He had a white mama and he had an African daddy, and they came together. And even in Africa, let me break that down as well. In Africa, everybody in Africa is not dark skinned, chocolate dark. They're not. I don't care how y'all feel about it. If you get offended, oh well, that's on you. All Africans are not dark or chocolate dark. They're just not. Because in different countries, even in the black ones, because in Northern Africa, you have the Arabs, you have the Egyptians, the Moroccans, the Algerians, and the Tunisians. They come from the Arab race of people. completely different languages. They speak Arabic and maybe Farsi and a lot of the other Arab dialects. And then when you get to sub-Saharan Africa, like the Republic of the Congo, you have Eritrea, Ethiopia, then you have Nigeria, Ghana, so on and so forth. That's when you get down to the Swahili and the Yoruba and the Igbo and the other different cultures. Now, even in these countries, you have Indian people, you have Chinese people, and that's mainly because these people came over there for business purposes and whatnot. Because they still have a lot of colonization going on in Africa. Then in South Africa, you have the Afrikaan people, and the Afrikaan people are people of Dutch descent, which are white. So yeah, you got white people down there in South Africa, and then you move along to the apartheid, which is what Jim Crow was to us when they had the separation of races between the. I think the tribe may be. Well, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to be wrong, but they had the different African tribes of black descent. You had the Afrikaans and the Africans, and they were separate. So they have a similar culture and history to us there too. And their people are just as mixed up, just like we are. But looking at it from an American perspective and black people perspective here in America, if you got a black parent, even if you mixed or whatever, you're still black. So Kamala Harris, in a lot of our eyes, she's still black. And when you look at Kamala Harris, I don't really see a Jamaican woman or an Indian woman because from and let's just be clear, I'm so tired of people saying that all ethnicities and whatnot don't have their own swag or way of talking and walking. That's a lie because they do. To people like me who've grown up around people of different cultures and ethnicities and other people out there too, you can tell a Caribbean person a mile away. You can tell a Jamaican, a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, or a Kenyan, or a Nigerian, or an Italian person, or a black person, hood person, ratchet person. I mean, all of these different groups of people have their own distinctions that can tell them apart. But when I look at Kamala Harris, I don't see an Indian woman. Now, as far as how she runs her household with her husband, you probably might see it there. Because, I mean, when you grow up from parents of certain cultures, you're going to be taught how to cook, curry chicken. And the thing about the Caribbeans and Indians, they pretty much eat a lot of the same foods. Because, due to what I said earlier about Indians having such a profound influence on the Caribbean, that's why you see curry chicken and naan and roti and goat and all that kind of stuff because it came from India and they brought the food over there, and that's why they eat like that. So Kamala Harris probably on the Sunday, she probably got fried chicken and well, I'm sorry, not fried chicken because it's not a Jamaican delicacy. But I mean, when you go to Kamala Harris's house, yeah, she may eat some curry chicken every now and then with some roti and some naan, and then she might have some jerk chicken with some collard greens and a macaroni pie and plantains and stuff on the side and stuff, and maybe a lassi here or there. So, of course, when you grow up from different cultures, it's gonna be seen somewhere in the house the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, and the way you cook your food. So, yeah, Kamala Harris to a lot of us is black because of how she looks and because of how she carries herself. But when you go home, you probably gonna see some Jamaican and some Indian somewhere in the house. And I mean, and that's just is what it is. We can argue about it all day. And yes, we have a right to our own opinions and whatnot. But as I mentioned before, looking at it from an African American perspective, she's seen as black. And I mean, in a lot of African Americans or black people, now due to our culture being so appropriated so much by other races, we're trying to reclaim our blackness and not let the mixed people be black or whatever. But I mean, it's kind of too late for that because we're one of the only ethnicities that's so friendly where we accept everybody. We let everybody in. We let everybody have a seat at the table. We'll let the white dude say nigga and wear cornrows and sag his pants and stuff and smoke weed with them on the corner and think it's cool. But then we get mad when they come over to us and start making money off of selling dashikis, making money off of selling African spiritual supplies and stuff like that. We get mad when they come over to our community and sell our products and try to sell it to stuff like the Asians do, but at the same time, we don't say nothing or we look the other way, but we letting them sit there and tell us how we a nigga this and nigga that, dapping us up, smoking weed, rocking cornrows, and listening to hip hop music, trying to be black. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any, non-black people that do that. But I do think it's wrong for you to say the N word, because I don't think anybody should be saying the N word, because it's deprived from the word nigger. And I know a lot of black people probably gonna argue about that, but I really don't care about it. So that's that on that. But it is what it is. I feel like a lot of the stuff that we deal with in the African American community or the black community is an accumulation of what we allowed for so long. Because my thing is, and here's the thing that people don't understand about how people become the people that they are in the present time. It comes from conditioning. If you tell a person to shut up and be quiet, that they're stupid and dumb so many times, they're gonna believe the only thing they're allowed to do is to shut up and be quiet because they're stupid. But at the same time, it's like with blackness, if you constantly see a person, who's mixed or whatever, look black, and they share the same characteristics and whatnot as somebody who's black. But if they come into black people and try to speak an Indian language or speak Spanish or speak patois to us and we don't know what they're talking about, we're going to keep saying, we're not Jamaican. We don't know that. We ain't Indian. We ain't know that. We're not Hispanic. We don't speak Spanish. And if they keep getting that response, they're going to be like, okay, well, for me to fit in with black people, I'm going to have to speak in English, listen to hip hop, do all this and that and the third. And I know all black people don't listen to hip hop or whatever, but let's just be honest. That's a common stereotype with us. If a person who's of mixed descent, but they're of black descent, they come in with black folks, speaking in languages that we don't know and doing stuff we're not aware of, 9 times out of 10, we're going to beat them over the head that we don't do stuff like that. And as time goes on, they're going to be like, okay, to be black, I can't speak Spanish in front of them or around them. To be black, I can't show them what curry chicken is or naan or roti is and stuff like that. They're going to eat fried chicken, listen to R&B and hip hop and watch BET and stuff like that. It just is what it is. So when people get treated the same way or in a certain way on a consistent basis, they're going to be conditioned to behave and talk like that. And with black people in this country, with blackness, since every time we see somebody who got some type of tint or color in their skin, or kink or curl in their hair, and they share some type of characteristic to black culture and blackness, we're going to say it's black. And that's why it's the way that it is now. So leave a comment in the comment section and tell me you guys' thoughts and opinions and views about this. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section. And have a good day.